Okay, so hello everyone. Good morning and welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura Morales. I'm a research professor here at IPP, and today I'm doing Marta's job of introducing the seminar because she couldn't be here today with us. It's really a pleasure to introduce Sebastián Umpiérrez de Reguero, who is since a few months ago, a new colleague here at IPP. He's working as a researcher in the project Let's Care, Advancing Long-Term Care in Europe. For those of you who have not yet had the chance to chat with Sebastián in the corridors or who doesn't actually work here at IPP. Sebastián has a PhD in humanities from the University of Leiden and a PhD in political science from the University Diego Portales in Chile. And he has a very successful career and list of publications and research in topics relating to migrants' voting behavior, migrants' voting rights, and transnational political behavior. He will be presenting today a paper that he tells me is already available as a preprint at APSA, if I've understood correctly, called Migrant Franchise Constellations, a migrant-centric view of voting rights. And he will be, as usual, doing a presentation, and we'll have then the time to discuss the project and also the database. I understand that he's going to be presenting to us on migrant electoral rights. So thank you, Sebastián, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Today, I'm going to present a joint project, a joint working paper that, well, with my colleagues, Chadon Schneider and Rainer Balbock, we wrote probably 3 years ago, and we keep on refining and so on because, well, the data is still extensive and very rich. So, well, I'm very looking forward to hear your comments and your remarks over this text or this presentation. Yeah, the title is tentatively called Migrant Franchise Constellations. Migrant-centric view of voting rights. Basically, our study looks at voting rights, not just from the perspective of states. So it's not going to be monadic, but it's going to be dyadic because it's based on the assumption that a migrant can be both no citizen residence, but also a no resident citizen. Let me explain a little bit the context of this research because it's not only this paper, but also, as Laura anticipated, rich global data set, but also a list of publications are related to this data set. So this research project began in 2021 during my first postdoc at the European University Institute. We have published the global seed dataset of migrant electoral rights. This is the webpage, and the official event for launching this dataset is going to be October 15 online. So if you are interested in migration, citizenship, and political participation, please, I encourage you to go. Of course, this project has already resulted in 2 publications, one in GEMS in the Journal of Ethnic and Migration Studies with Martin Fink about pathways of external citizenship, considering both external voting and also dual citizenship acceptance around the world. And also in international migration, we published a piece on a special representation of no-resident citizens. And there are 2 forthcoming publications, sorry for the self-promotion here, one in Oxford Handbook of Electoral Integrity about external voting worldwide, but also, maybe the most important paper that is going to be published in Scientific Data Nature collection about the data set. So yeah, we are very proud of this. I'm going to explain a little bit of the data set so you can play around with the data set, and maybe you can bring migrant electoral rights to your own research. Finally, it's important to note that this paper and the migrant franchise constellation paper is currently under review as a research note, so hopefully we achieve the R&R and we have the time for incorporating your comments and remarks. This is the structure of the dataset. For those interested, the dataset covers both no resident citizen and no citizen resident, or a migrant and immigrant, both sides of the coin, and is encompassing in 3 levels of elections: national, regional, and local. And we cover 3 types of election in each. So, for instance, presidential, if the country has presidential elections, legislative or parliamentary, and also referenda if pertinent. And then we also cover candidacy rights, that is really under exploration, well, under a study in the existing literature. And those are the indicators, well, the summary of the indicators of the dataset. Basically, 3 set of conditions: eligibility, access, and modality conditions. In total, it covers 488 indicators per country, and we are taking this from the 60s to 2020. So it's a lot of information. We take 5 years in doing so. So this is publicly available right now. Okay, our motivation. Well, it's mainly it's mainly that most no resident citizens are no citizen residents in tandem, as I explained. So we base this paper and the others in the assumption of a migrant can be both and can vote in multi-territorial localities. So over the past 50 years, as probably you know, migrant inclusion in elections has been one of the major democratic shift. This is because the barrier of citizenship or an residency has teared down. This allows us to ask 2 key but descriptive questions. So basically, what share of migrant pathways provide full, partial, or no franchise, and how many migrants remain completely disenfranchised globally? I mean, as you said, Laura, the paper is already preprint. So if you are interested in one of those questions, you can still read the paper. But also, I'm going to bring a little bit of the robustness checks. We also correlate the dyadic year dataset with political regime, or we focus only in special diets. Our contribution is to conceptualize migrant franchise constellation across 3 arenas: the national elections of the country of residence, local elections of the country of residence, and national elections of the country of citizenship from abroad. We exclude local elections of the country of citizenship or the country of origin because empirically it's not relevant enough. Around 8-9 countries worldwide include those type of elections or grant their no resident citizens and this type of rights. So when we were like computing these dyads, this distort in a somewhat distort the analysis. To do this, we built a large dyad-year dataset, so another dataset based on the original dataset, covering over 1,300,000 observations of 172 countries from the 60s to 2020 from various sources, mainly for migrant electoral rights. We tend to see, or when we tend to corroborate this with primary sources, but we combine with varieties of democracy, for instance, the indicator of the raw political regime around the world, but also nationality condition rules, dual citizenship acceptance, and the migrant stock data of UN. We know that those datasets offers a strength, but also limitations. We discussed, for instance, the limitations, or probably we think that we discuss these limitations in the paper. But yeah, yeah, looking forward to hear you to hear you back. This allows us to track both long-term trends and population actually affected by enfranchisement or disenfranchisement in the case of migration. So this is just a technical note. I'm going to pass this slide for the time of sake. I'm going to present this typology. This isn't probably the main idea of this paper. We did here a typology based on different type of constellations, based on the combinations or the configurations between national level, local level, when you refer to country of residence, and national level when you refer to country of citizenship. Close autocracies, for instance, were coded as 0, since even if rights exist on paper, they are meaningless in practice. So we are not taking, for instance, Saudi Arabia or North Korea into account for this dataset. We also exclude if voting rights occur in local level elections, as I told, in the country of citizenship, because of the marginal percentage of occurrence. This leads to a typology of franchise constellations ordered by inclusiveness. We can discuss in the Q&A why, for instance, we take the country of residence hypothetically as more inclusive than the country of citizenship. But basically, if I may, this is the full franchise constellations. For instance, we have the example of here Great Britain with South Africa. So a South African living in UK can vote in both countries, or in both policies, and in national, local, and national in the country of citizenship. But we also have, for instance, Uruguayan living in UK and Uruguayan living in UK cannot vote either in Uruguay in national elections, for instance, but also cannot vote in UK, neither in local or national elections. And in the middle, or in between, we have different partial franchise constellations. We illustrate this typology with the curious case of United Kingdom, because I think United Kingdom covers all the constellations because of the, for instance, Commonwealth, cultural legacy, but also the historical importance in terms of franchise. We also have this graphic that is, this table that is part of the supplementary information. we play around with what happens if the migrants are naturalized, and what happens if the migrants are naturalized and you have a dual citizenship option into play. So, for instance, we have that, for instance, an Indian living in UK is automatically, after naturalization, upgrade to a next level, but not necessarily to the maximum level, because even so, India and UK has a very restrictive dual citizenship bilateral agreement. Data construction, well, this is also a methodological note, how we construct in more detail the paper. And if you are interested in the number of observations and how we focus on special diets, those are the numbers. We also have note or a disclaimer on the UNDESA population, migrant stock population data set here, because it has a lot of limitations that currently constrain our results in general. This is our first finding. Our first finding is historical. In the 60s, about 90% of the diets provide no franchise at all. This is partially a very similar result of the monadic perspective or the state-centric perspective. We are not inventing the wheel here. By 2020, that figure has dropped to about 29%. The model pattern in 2020 is external voting only voting rights. So this is the most common pattern, or the most common constellation. Namely, most of the expansion was driven by countries of citizenship reforming their external voting laws rather than countries of residence opening their elections. Second, we look at transition dynamics within diets. The most common move is from no franchise to external voting only. This is no surprise, since the fall of the Wall of Berlin, we have more states willing to grant no-resident citizens some kind of voting rights, even in one type of election, or only in referendum when the referendum is national sensitive. So basically, this is the most common trend. More inclusive transitions, such as gaining both local and external voting rights, come from reforms on both sides of the coin, the country of residence and the country of citizenship. So this is partially the innovative, one of the innovative results of this view or this lens. Restrictive transitions are rare, the orange one. But the biggest one we observe is external only reverting back to no franchise. And this is probably correlated with autocratization in the world, but also the different domestic arrangements that control or manage migration as restrictive. So basically, this is the most rare pattern in our data set. Third, when we mix with population with migrant stock, we account for population exposure. The numbers are stark. In 1990, more than half of migrants in our diets were fully excluded from voting rights. But in 2020, exclusion declined, but the absolute number remains high. Over 75 million migrants were still completely disenfranchised. Of course, given data limitation, as I told, these numbers may actually underestimate exclusion. I bring two robustness checks, and this is just to show how this data works with political regime. This is practically similar to what happens with a state-centric view of migrant enfranchisement. More liberal and electoral democracies tend to have constellations that are more inclusive, and when countries are more like electoral or close autocracies, then tend to be more exclusive. This is not a surprise, of course. But yeah, this is part of the robustness checks. You are not going to find this in the preprint, but probably this is going to be supplementary information when the paper is published, when this research note is published. We also account for special diets, for instance, in the case of Turkish in Germany, the case of Mexicans in the United States, the case of Venezuelans in Colombia, or the case of Zimbabweans in South Africa. So basically, we also tend to corroborate information on population. We tend to corroborate other type of domestic arrangements more closely, so we can see the dynamics, the diet year dynamics of these special diets. Finally, these findings carry probably three main implications. Inclusion has mainly been driven by external voting reforms rather than residence-based enfranchisement, despite currently 50 countries in the world permit or allow no citizen residents to vote either in local election or in both national and local elections. The second implication is that regional and bilateral agreement play a disproportionate role in expanding rights, and this is why, for instance, we are interested in unpacking this more closely in the supplementary data special diets. Because when, probably you all know, when you are trying to publish a research note, you are very limited by the word count, and you cannot include all pieces in the research note. Third implication, we should not only worry about double or dual voting, but also about the risk of under-enfranchisement. We are preparing a normative paper on that covers both concerns. Following the principle of stakeholder, as Rainer Babok already theorized, but also the concern of dual voting. More than that, or beyond that, policy priorities we have to highlight: expanding voting, local voting rights in country of residence, safeguarding and streamlining external voting, and using reciprocal agreements to close diets gaps. Maybe this is something that we can explore further in a future research agenda. And legal rights are not the same as actual access or turnout. built upon the existing literature on monadic view or state-centric migrant electoral rights, we know that de jure enfranchisement does not mean necessarily that de facto enfranchisement in practice is quite the same. So probably we need more data, because our data set only covers de jure enfranchisement, to unravel or to unfold this dynamic. We plan to link franchise constellations to behavior and attitudes and examines whether long-term exclusion has lasting effects on political participation. Last but not least, migrant rights are best understood as dyadic, we strongly believe, shaped by both the country of residence and the country of citizenship or the country of origin. Most of the inclusion since the decade of the 60s come from external voting reform, as I anticipate, yet tons of millions, well, tens of millions of migrants remain fully disenfranchised. Probably this is interesting, for instance, to take a look in demographic studies into this. And finally, agreements across the states are key to unlocking inclusion. Thank you very much.